You won't believe how young these female billionaires are, and the stories of how they earned their wealth at such a young age will blow your mind. Number 10. Ipek Kirach, age 38. Ipek Kirach inherited some of her fortune, but she wasn't always lucky. She had a rough start in life that led to her being put up for adoption. The couple that chose to adopt her was Inan and Suna Kirach, the founders of Koç Holding, one of the largest conglomerates in Turkey. You could say her wealth was just luck, but since she became old enough to take charge of her inheritance, she's made a mark on the company she's inheriting. And it's a pretty big job. Koç Holding has a whopping 14 companies, all traded on Istanbul Stock Exchange. Across these 14 companies, the conglomerate is involved in cars, energy, finance, consumer goods, technology, retail, tourism, food, agriculture, and shipbuilding. Interestingly, it was the shipbuilding part of the company that Ipek took an immediate interest in. After completing her studies, she took the role of chairwoman and CEO of Sarina Marine Maritime Industry and Trade beginning in 2012. And she totally changed the success of the company. She changed the company's focus, turning it away from contract manufacturing and transforming it into a luxury producer of luxury boats. Within the next 10 years under her guidance, the company's turnover increased to 5 times the amount. Even more impressive is that their profit grew to 20 times the amount they were earning before she took over. It's now among the top 500 largest exporting companies in the country. Clearly, she's not taking her inheritance for granted. She's being smart and growing what her parents created. And it shows. Right now, she's worth an impressive $3 billion, a big increase on the $1.2 billion she had last year. Unlike Ipek, the next billionaire on our list isn't involved in the company that's earning billions for her. Let's take a closer look at how this young billionaire lives. Number 9. Anne Werninghouse, age 37. Anne Werninghouse was lucky enough to be born into a family connected to WEG, Latin America's electrical motor manufacturing giant. The company was founded by 3 business partners: Egon João de Silva, Werner Ricardo Voicha, and Geraldo Werninghouse. Now you see the connection. Geraldo was Anne's grandfather. He was a humble mechanic before starting the company that would turn him into a billionaire, and it's still growing. While it still has its headquarters in Brazil, it now has operations in over 100 countries and has productions across electric engineering, power, and automation technology. The company itself is currently valued at about $30 billion. So, where does Anne fit in? Well, she inherited her grandfather's part of the company, making her the largest individual shareholder of the business right now. And that means she has a net worth of $1.2 billion without doing a thing. In her defense, she did try to start her own company. Back in 2012, she founded Vestas BR. It was designed as a business-to-business fashion wholesale company that looked pretty promising. They even got investors on board, but the business flopped. It closed pretty quick after opening and disappeared. That's the last information we can find about Anne. After that, she kinda disappeared. It seems like she decided to settle down, get married, and become a mom to 2 children. Now she's living the quiet life in Joinville, Brazil, with her family. Their house isn't far from WEG's headquarters. Let's face it, if you could just sit back and live a perfect life while money rolled in, wouldn't you do the same? We'd all like a no-work life like Anne. But unlike her, the next young billionaire on our list didn't inherit anything. She's 100% self-made. Number 8. Liu Yuan, age 36. Liu Yuan is a self-made young billionaire from China, and she created her astounding $1.5 billion net worth with just one popular idea. Back in 2010, she teamed up with her husband, Guotao Zhang, to create the Shenzhen Dairy Jewelry Company. In case you're wondering, dairy is a combination of the words diamond and Mary. But this wasn't any ordinary jewelry store. Instead of simply selling sparkly rings, they came up with a unique system. All diamond rings are linked to the buyer's ID card, and they're only allowed to purchase one in their lifetime. This strategy encourages what they call a lifetime commitment. This is a totally unique concept, and because nobody had ever done it before, it attracted a lot of attention in China. Young couples were scrambling to get their hands on a dairy ring to prove just how committed they really were to each other. The company also sells other jewelry, like the staple necklaces and bracelets, as well as offering personalized items and jewelry repair services. All of these additional offers are benefiting from the huge amount of attention that their once-in-a-lifetime engagement rings are getting. They now have a whopping 450 stores worldwide, and in 2021, they'd grown so big that they went live on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange for the first time. Lu Yuan's net worth shot up instantly, and she's now one of the youngest female billionaires in the world, and she did it all without inheriting anything. Her net worth has dropped a little since last year, but Forbes says her $1.5 billion is currently growing again. She's not even the only 36-year-old self-made billionaire on our list. The next young woman had to prove experts wrong before she could make her first billion. Number 7. Melanie Perkins, age 36. Chances are, you've at least looked at something created on Canva recently, but most of you can probably claim you've used it yourself. Even though it's everywhere these days, you probably couldn't name the people behind it, but we can tell you. Its creator is Melanie Perkins. She teamed up with 2 other people to make it happen, Cameron Adams and Cliff Obrecht, who she's now married to. And you might be surprised to hear that investors weren't getting on board at first. They didn't like that the company was located in Sydney, Australia, and nobody seemed excited to hand over money to the Canva creators. Well, we now know that they seriously proved these doubters wrong. Today, it has a whopping 60 million monthly users. But we know what you're thinking. A lot of the software is free to use, so how much money are they really making? They actually have 500,000 teams paying for the use of the software, and most of them are from big companies like Zoom and Intel. In other words, they're earning a ton of cash. In September 2021, the company was valued at a staggering $40 billion. So it's not hard to see how Melanie has become a self-made billionaire at only 36 years old. It's estimated that she owns 18% of Canva, and her personal net worth is currently around $3.6 billion. Her husband, who helped create the company, owns another portion of it, so their net worth as a couple is even higher. But they're not taking it for granted. They've pledged to give 80% of their stake in the company to the Canva Foundation for charitable causes. We can all agree that's seriously generous. Melanie only had her co-founders to help support her business goals. Lucky for the next person on her list, she had her whole family involved to help her become a billionaire. Number 6. Eva Maria Braun Ludeca, age 36. To find out how Eva Maria Braun Ludeca made her fortune, we need to do a little time travel. Way back in 1839, a tiny pharmacy opened its doors in Germany. At the time, nobody realized it would become B. Braun Medicungen, a major medical company. That's because for over 100 years, it never really grew. By 1977, it was only making $24 million in annual sales. That was when Ludwig Jörg Braun took over. He's Maria's mother's cousin, and he started getting the company on track to becoming a multi-billion-dollar manufacturer. Today, the pharmaceutical device manufacturer produces everything from infusion and injection solutions to surgical instruments, and they're worth about $8 billion. That's a long way from the few million they were earning in the 70s. And Eva Maria owns 12% of that multi-billion-dollar family business. But she's not just sitting back and waiting for the money to flow into her bank account. Like the rest of her family, she's working to grow the business. She's stepped into the role of communications manager for the company, which can be essential to growing a business. She's the one who promotes the brand, ensuring that their customers and stakeholders get a good impression. Without that, they won't sell their products, and they'll lose investors in the blink of an eye. In other words, Eva Maria has to be smart. The company's growth is proof that she's really good at her job, and she's earning her $1.2 billion net worth. If billionaires working hard for their money seems a little boring, we've got you. The next billionaire on our list has a ton of scandals surrounding her. Number 5. Gina Reinhardt, age 36. We can't talk about Gina Reinhardt without explaining a little about her family first. You'll see why pretty soon. Gina is the granddaughter of iron ore explorer Lang Hancock from the Australian mining company Hancock Prospecting. We all know that mining is big business, but Hancock wasn't the one that turned the family into billionaires. In fact, he drove his own company into the ground. Then, in 1992, Gina's mom, Gina, stepped up. She took over her father's failing company, took over as executive chairwoman, and got to work rebuilding what her father had broken as ruthlessly as she needed to. To achieve success, she needed to pay off a whopping $7.2 billion debt that her father had created. And she did it. Grit and determination made her the richest woman in Australia, with a $26.1 billion net worth. And just this year, she found herself in court because it turned out at least 50% of the money her company made on a major mining project actually belonged to someone else. See what we mean by ruthless? Anyway, Gina's not the one we're talking about here. Gina, her 36-year-old daughter, is the one that made our list of youngest female billionaires. But where did her money come from? No, she didn't take a role in the family's business. Way back in 1988, Hancock had established a trust for his 4 grandchildren, including Gina. Gina was named as the trustee who would run the trust until her youngest child, Janina, turned 25. The trust owns 23.6% of the shares in Hancock Prospecting, and in 2015, it was valued at over $3 billion. In 2011, Gina's 3 siblings began a bitter court battle to attempt to remove their mom as the trustee. They all accused their mom of misconduct and wanted to take control of it themselves. This cat-and-mouse fight continued for 4 years. Gina is the only one who refused to get involved. In the end, it didn't matter. The courts named Gina's sister Bianca as the new trustee, and Gina's net worth now stands at $1.9 billion. Gina might be trying to avoid any scandals herself, but they seem to follow her around. Of course, Gina isn't the only young billionaire who inherited her wealth. The next young woman on our list benefited from her father's ingenuity. Number 4. Franziska Wurbser, age 35. Franziska Wurbser made her billions by getting lucky. She's the daughter of Siegfried Meister, a man who revolutionized commercial cooking in the 70s. Half a century ago, back in 1973, Siegfried founded Rational AG, a company dedicated to creating appliances for large-scale cooking in restaurants. He had just 18 employees when they opened their doors. But it was 3 years later that he came up with a new design that changed everything. He invented the Rational Combi Steamer, a sophisticated kind of combination oven that's still sought after by the best chefs in the world today. It was an instant hit, and 2 years after it was launched, Siegfried's company discontinued every other appliance in their range so they could focus on producing their combi steamers and meet the very high demand for their amazing product. Today, Rational AG dominates over 50% of the commercial cooking appliance market. They're literally the best in the business. When Siegfried passed away in 2017, he left his share of the profit to 4 family members. One was his wife, and the other was his daughter, Franziska. At the time of his death, Siegfried still owned 63% of the company, and that amount was split between the family members. Franziska's mom was involved in the company, but Franziska isn't. Still, her net worth after her father's death is currently $1 billion. Technically, it's dropped from $1.1 billion last year, but that's still a very impressive amount of money for a 35-year-old to have in the bank. But there are other young women her age who earned every penny. The next billionaire on our list isn't just self-made, she's also a superstar. Number 3. Rihanna, age 35. Barbados-born megastar Rihanna is only 35 years old, but her impact on the music industry has been more influential than most musicians who have been working their whole lives. She earned her first Grammy in 2007 thanks to her hit song Umbrella, which topped the charts in 17 countries and became one of the most played songs of the decade. But that's just one award on an impressively long list. She has 9 Grammys, 13 AMAs, including their Icon Award, 12 Billboard Music Awards, and an Academy Award nomination. And that's without even mentioning the 6 Guinness World Records, which mostly have something to do with the breathtaking number of records she's sold. Just this year, she also became the first person ever to headline a Super Bowl halftime show while pregnant. But no matter how big your music career gets, it's never going to be enough to make you a billionaire. So Rihanna needed business smarts to get where she is today. Of course, like all recognizable celebrities, she's had a few high-paying brand endorsement deals. She seems to mainly stick to luxury brands, including Dior, Gucci, and Louis Vuitton, which is a pretty smart move because it cements her status as someone who knows about quality. And that brings us to her billion-dollar businesses, her own luxury brands, which are the source of most of her wealth. She started with her cosmetics company, Fenty Beauty. The brand is a joint venture with luxury goods maker LVMH. It was popular from the moment Rihanna launched the brand, but experts say its revenue actually doubled last year. She then launched a spin-off from that brand, Savage by Fenty. The luxury lingerie brand has an estimated value of $3 billion, and Rihanna owns at least 30% of it. Put it all together, and Forbes currently lists her net worth at an impressive $1.4 billion and counting. Rihanna proves that you don't need to be from a billionaire family to have business smarts. But she was in her 30s before she hit $1 billion. The next woman on our list is still in her 20s. Number 2. Katarina Andresen, age 28. Katarina Andresen comes from a long line of Norwegian businessmen. If you took a look back over the family heritage, you'd find ship owners, bankers, merchants, factory owners, and politicians. She is none of these things. Instead, her wealth all comes from her dad, Johan Andresen. He's the owner of Fird AS, a major investment company involved in hedge funds, stock market investments, and private equity. We all know that kind of business means big money, and this company is one of the largest privately owned companies in Norway. They've also expanded into other areas like computing and packaging. It brings in so much money each year that Johan is currently the 5th richest person in the country. But in 2007, when Katarina was just 12 years old, Johan generously gifted her a whopping 42% of the company's market shares. He still runs the company, but Katarina is benefiting from his success. It doesn't look like she has any involvement in the company. She's most famous for a DUI scandal, and it looks like she currently lives in London. Still, her net worth is an impressive $1.5 billion. But you might be surprised to hear that she's not the only young billionaire who profited from this company. Katarina has a younger sister, who's the youngest female billionaire on our list. How much money does she have? Let's find out. Number 1. Alexandra Andresen, age 27. Alexandra Andresen is the youngest female billionaire in the world right now. Like her sister, Katarina, she also benefited from her dad's generosity. She also received 42% of the company's market shares at the same time as her sister, becoming the world's youngest billionaire at the age of 19. But the young heiress is 27 now, and unlike her sister, she's making a name for herself in a field she's passionate about. She's an equestrian champion. She's won several major dressage competitions over the years and became Norway's junior dressage champion 3 times. She also won the AEG Achievement of the Year award at the age of 17. She works incredibly hard to achieve her horse riding goals, but she still found time to study social sciences at Amsterdam University College and complete an internship at her father's company. Her father told the media that he won't force either of his daughters to work for the company. But if Alexandra did her internship there, she might take a role at the company when her dressage days are over. For now, she's earning a living through horse riding. She's so good at it, she's currently sponsored by Kingsland, a major equestrian company. She's even worked as a model for their apparel range. She claims she always saves any prize money she earns, and she hates asking her parents for money. It looks like she's on track to growing her $1.5 billion net worth. Most of the young women on this list made their fortune through their inheritance, but not all super wealthy women make their money that way, and Hollywood is the best place to look for proof of that. Just take a look at the wealthiest actresses in the world right now. Pretty much all of them are self-made, and some are just short of the billion-dollar mark.